just so small.
Where it just jettisoned.
Hey there, this is the Small Stuff Podcast. My name is Kyle Roebuck. This is the intro. Let's start the show. Hello, everybody. I usually start these by immediately saying hello to the person across from me. Aron Daniels is here. But first, I'm going to do something a little different. We've got a few different podcasts and things going on with small stuff, so I want to cover that stuff first. Then we'll get into the episode because I know you aren't going to wait until the end. And I just realized this today, so we're switching it up. So, two podcasts that are out right now that Small Stuff Media is producing. So, about that with Obi Smith, I said because I wasn't sure which one I was going to say first, and then I got crossed in my own head. About that with Obi Smith is live right now. You can get that anywhere that you get your podcasts. And another one is Tales from the Shadows. Tales from the Shadows is a kind of horror, maybe true crime podcast. Me and Brighton are just going to be telling scary stories with some ambiance, some sound design, make it extra spooky. And about that with Obi Smith is going to be sharing her opinions on the world. It's going to be kind of, well, I don't know. It might not be similar to Bill Burr's podcast, but same kind of format where you just kind of sit there and talking, ranting, giving you rank lists maybe you didn't really ask for, stuff like that. Listen to the promo. Does a much better job of explaining it because we sat down and wrote it out as a script. So you probably heard the promo in the beginning of this. Anyway, Aron Daniels is here today. I'm done with the housekeeping stuff. What's up? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, that was the first time doing that. That was rocky. Good God. The fuck? I'm garbage at just improv and shit like that. So Aron, who are you? What do you do?
Hey guys, I'm Aron Daniels, a graphic designer who lives in Greenville, North Carolina. I have a wife and 2 kids, and our house is absolutely insane, and we enjoy the chaos. But I've been designing mostly magazines and logos and business cards and brochures and all that kind of stuff for 12 years, something like that, maybe even more. But I've been in magazines pretty heavily for at least 10 years. And so that's my main focus. But yeah, I'm not complicated. We just work a lot and play a lot and have a big ball of chaos.
Yeah. Sounds like my life. So you're living in Greenville now. Are you from Greenville originally, or?
We moved when my oldest son was 1 year old. He had not slept through the night, and we were having a hard time. So we moved here out of need to be near family. My mom and her husband, my stepdad, are here, and a lot of the families in this area. So we moved here to get some sleep, and that was 8 years ago. And everything's changed since then. Our whole family has grown here, and we're really enjoying it. But Greenville was, it was a big switch from us. We were coming from Winston-Salem, and I thought we'd live there forever. That's a really good city. But then the longer we're in Greenville, the more I find here, it's growing on me. And over the last 8 years, it's really, I've really connected to the people here.
Yeah. I'd say the same thing has happened to me over the past 3 years or so, probably because I've gotten more heavily involved in the community, just being a small business owner, I suppose, in the area. You kind of have to.
I think when we first moved here, we didn't know anybody for ages. And from the outside, you're just like, well, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We live out in Blackjack Simpson, and everything's 20 minutes away from where we live. And so for ages, I was like, well, we need to get involved. We need to find our people because, where we're at, you just don't naturally have a lot of interactions with people unless you're trying to.
Yeah.
And so a little while in, we started connecting to networking groups and business connections and all that kind of stuff. And that turned into friendships.
Yeah.
And so that changed a lot for us when some of those took off and we finally had people. And when you get past all the business and you can finally talk to people and they're real, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's something about being on okay, hang on, let me see how to explain this and it not sound bad. Like, pretend there's like an inner circle, and in that circle is like being involved in the way that the city is moving about, how it's moving forward. And by that, I mean like being a business owner or being connected with a lot of people who own small businesses in Greenville who are trying to start new things. Being inside that circle opens up like a world of color that you can't really see in Greenville unless you're in that circle. If you're on the outskirts of it, which I felt like I was for a long time, I grew up here. Like, I've been in Greenville my entire life.
Yeah.
And until the last 3 years or so, it was just kind of like, meh, you know, it's the place I grew up. It's cool, I guess. Maybe we'll move to Raleigh or Charlotte.
What was 3 years ago?
When I started photography.
Okay.
Yeah. 3, 4. Well, when I really started like trying to do it professionally.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it was just kind of a hobby of mine.
I think people, especially entrepreneurs, for you to start a business, for you to really invest your time and energy into something like that, you're giving a lot of yourself. And so for those people who kind of step into that space and are doing their own thing for the first time, it's really vulnerable. And so when you are meeting those people, they're kind of in that space where they've invested, where they've done this stuff. And so all of a sudden there's this richness when you're interacting with them. You're like, oh, these are people who've gone through hell and who are pressing on. And you just have instant camaraderie with people who you know are going through it, have been through it, and are still wanting to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it helps when you meet other people who become close or friends with you, and like you were saying, you see that they've got their shit together. It seems, right? The closer you get to them, you realize most people don't. Even the really successful ones, they still have, they have problems, but they're bigger problems, because legitimately more money, more success, more problems, or larger problems at the very least. But you realize, oh shit, like 4 years ago, they were where I am. Or 2 years ago, they were where I am. Or a year ago, they were worse off than me. So like I could be, in 6 months, I could be where they are.
Yeah.
And it's good to surround yourself with people who are better than you in many, many things, because it forces you to become better at just about everything.
And I think people need permission to, what am I trying to say? People are trying to put their professional face forward all the time and present in a way that it makes them look however they want to be on Instagram and online. And it's great when you do just get real people, when you do just dig in and you're like, no, that's not, I don't want to see your Instagram. I want you to tell me about how you cussed this morning in front of your kid because you dropped something.
Yeah.
And I just like when people are messy. I appreciate when people get a little bit messy.
Yeah. We're all messy.
Yeah.
I try to stay like that, which is why legitimately even if I'm doing like a family shoot or something, like if I get a vibe, this family's like, you're cool, I'm not gonna like super test the waters, but like if I hear somebody say shit or something and I'm like showing you a picture, I'm gonna slip in like, oh fuck, whoops, I'm gonna do that, and like I'm gonna test the waters. I'm like, I'm sorry about that, my bad, I didn't mean to, slipped out. And if we get it's okay, we don't care, then we're good to go, and I can 100% be myself, or I can tone it down a little bit, and I try to present myself authentically, but filtered if I need to.
The layers.
You know what I mean?
You're an ogre.
Yes.
You got layers.
I'm an onion. I'm like a cake. Yeah, cakes have layers. Everybody likes cake.
How often does Shrek really have space? We need more Shrek references.
Yeah, that's probably the first one on the podcast. That's a first. Yeah. I don't think if we ever made a Shrek reference on the podcast before. I might have said it's all ogre now before. Some really like fucked up people out there might know what I'm talking about when I say it's all ogre now. Don't look that up.
Okay.
It's not okay.
Okay.
It's a dark corner of YouTube. It might not even be on YouTube anymore.
We need the disclaimer to come on right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, and play the video right now. Just put it up. We'll take a copyright strike. So your family came from Winston-Salem. Is that where you grew up?
Nope. I've been all over North Carolina. I've been North Carolina all my life. But I grew up in Charlotte and then went to Western Carolina University, met my wife, Amy, and we moved to Winston-Salem, and then we moved here. So we've been from west to east.
Okay. So growing up in Charlotte, how were you in Charlotte until you were like an adult? Or Okay.
I moved away for college.
Okay. And how different is it living here in Greenville compared to Charlotte? I've always I don't go to Charlotte very often because I don't like big cities. I genuinely hate big cities because I don't do well on the road. Yeah. So I try to avoid it if I can, or at least driving in it. I'll Uber through a big city.
I loved it. I grew up in it, and I started driving in Charlotte. And so for years, my driving was a little bit overly aggressive, especially moving to Western, where it's like the small mountain town.
Yeah.
It was like...
It's like, dude, chill out. I was letting you over. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, people were
You're just like whipping in front of people with 3 inches of clearance.
People were a little bit upset with me when I got there because I was a Charlotte driver. But I also, the mountain drivers have their own problems. They don't need to be driving that slow.
Brakes, man, brakes. You'll go through some fucking brake pads up there.
Man, I loved Charlotte. It was you could always, there was a restaurant 5 minutes from you wherever you were.
Yeah.
And something about good food makes a place to me. And so growing up in Charlotte, especially in high school years after I got a job and, you have all that money coming in and you don't have to pay rent to your parents. And it would just be, like dates and hanging out with people nonstop. And so the restaurant life was where it was at. It was great. And I still love Charlotte. I don't go there very often anymore, probably once a year, once every couple years. But it was really fun growing up in Charlotte. It's a different pace. It's fast. There's parties and activity all the time.
Yeah.
My wife likes this pace. We live sort of in the country, where we've got a 10-acre piece of land and a little pond, and our dog runs and our kids play in the dirt, and that's great. That's her pace.
Yeah.
And I love my family, but I miss a lot of that activity.
Yeah. Part of me wants that, like just to kind of be out in the middle of nowhere and have that space. But part of me is also like, I really enjoy being like, I'd say Raleigh's probably as big as I'd want to get as far as the city goes. But Greenville's becoming kind of a sweet spot.
I like where it's headed.
It's getting, yeah. If it turned into like a little mini Raleigh, then I might have to one day try to buy one of those old buildings downtown and build a studio in the bottom and a nice, cool, sick-ass industrial apartment above it if Crystal will go for that. As long as it like looks cool, like for the most part for me, and she's got like nice new stainless steel, white, black, really simple color scheme, kitchen, living room area-ish, she's good. I'm just going to make sure there's some rusty metal in a few places. When
we moved here 8 years ago, I was like, what did we do?
Yeah, there wasn't, dude, not that there was nothing 8 years ago, but it was completely different. It was the city was like just overrun by, what the hell did I just knock over?
Now you can, there are good restaurants. There are good places to go hang out with people and stuff. So it's had a lot of change. I love a lot of stuff that's happened in the past few years.
I think it's because people like you moved here. People like you, people like Luke Owens.
I'm excited about that new restaurant.
Yeah, me too. He's got another one that I don't know that I can talk about right now.
Cool. Disclaimer here.
Yeah, I just know he may or may not be working on something else. But yeah, I think people like you, him, and a few others who names are not coming to mind, but there's others.
There's a lot of others, yeah.
And are helping shape the landscape, shape it into, I think, what everybody kind of sees that it can be. Because before, 8 years ago, like I was going to say, the city was kind of run just by old money.
It seemed like a college town where people came for college and then went off to go do their own thing.
Yeah.
Unless you were in medical, where you went to Vidant, or if you got a job at ECU.
Yeah.
It seemed like those were the things. And now that's not necessarily as true.
No.
There's stuff to keep people here. People are moving here.
And that's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal. The only problem I have with it is rent is fucking nuts right now. It makes no sense. The same apartment. They haven't changed anything.
Mm-hmm.
The same apartment from 2 years ago costs like $300 more than it would have, or than it would now.
Yeah.
Wait, does it what? You know what I mean.
All the words.
I think I said it backwards, but you know what I mean. Shit's expensive. But it's there's good and bad to it, but I think mostly good.
Yeah.
For people who are here who are trying to start a business, or people who are here who go to Raleigh a lot for stuff, to have fun. Maybe they live here, but they have family across the country or something, and family comes here, and then they have to go to Raleigh to do fun stuff. It's like, no, you can come here now.
Absolutely.
And that's it. All we need is a water park.
One of the things that I'm really trying to do with the new magazine is to catch some of those people that are on the way up, the ones who are starting their new businesses and that kind of thing. And before, I'm not just here being an opportunist trying to siphon some of their money off. It's like, oh, you're the new guys. You're really going to be trying something exciting, and you're going to be shaping what Greenville is in the next 5 years. And so I'm trying real hard to kind of have that culture where showcase the movers, the ones who are doing stuff, who are being good to people and starting cool stuff.
Right. So you mentioned the magazine, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I wanted to ask you, we talked about how long you've been in magazine. Let's see. What did you do when you graduated from college? Did you move straight into doing print style stuff like that, or I don't really know what you call it? Well, publications.
When I graduated, Amy was a couple years behind me, and so we got married before she was actually done with college, and so I was sort of in the mountains near Western Carolina and needed to find graphic design jobs, which are not huge up there. And so I went through like 4 different companies up there and was with them for 6 months before they either closed down or outsourced to somewhere else. And so I had a lot of 6-month graphic design jobs. And then I was a waiter a few times. I did a lot of other stuff. Just because you do what you do at that age. You just do what comes along.
Yep.
But waiting tables was, I made more money waiting tables than I did for years after that. It was a lot of fun.
And you were waiting tables in the mountains? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Not to say that people don't have money up there, but I didn't know if you were talking about Charlotte or something. I imagine being a waiter in Charlotte is quite nice. Well, as far as the pay goes.
Yeah.
Or the tips go. Yeah. So when did you move into, this isn't the first magazine you've printed.
So we, excuse me.
You're right.
We went to, when we got to Winston-Salem, I wound up employed at a place that did magazines and stuff. So I was employed by a graphic design company. And then eventually I got assigned a client that was my personal account. And when I left that company to move here, I had a non-compete for a year. And then when that was up, that client that had been mine for a few years at that company came to me. And so I've been doing those magazines. Again, that's the Winston-Salem magazines. They're called Forsyth Woman, Forsyth Engaged, and Forsyth Community. And so that series of magazines I've been doing for 10 years. I don't own those, but they're my client. And I work with them. I must do 100 emails a day with them, it seems like.
Jesus. So what's the process for putting together a magazine?
It's messy.
Go for it. Just dive in.
Okay. The one that we own now here in town involves a lot more, actually. But the different parts, you need advertisers, writers, photographers, editors, and salespeople if you can get them. I don't have salespeople yet. So those are all me right now. But many of those are me. You get Word documents for the articles, super simple, but then people will supply photos and you just kind of check if it'll work. I don't know how much you deal with print, but a screen has 72 pixels per inch and printing has 300 for glossy. And so anything that you take from a screen to paper is about 3 times smaller. And so a lot of people are sending me stuff that needs some work. So they'll send me Word documents and they'll send me photos and I'll just try to make it work. And anything I can't make work, I'll use stock photos on and try to make it magic. But now it involves sales and juggling emails to potential advertisers and all sorts of stuff. I actually love the machinery of it. When I'm just the designer on the magazines, my whole world is just Word documents and designing an InDesign, the Adobe InDesign, and pulling stuff in, photoshopping some stuff, doing some vector work, and just pulling it together. And those magazines, the monthly is somewhere between 146 and 164 pages. And I'm doing all the articles and then most of the ads. And so it involves a lot of back and forth.
And
people.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No.
But I know you're designing the ads. Are you writing the articles?
I don't write them. So they've got a writing team of about probably, I would guess, 10 or 15 people who are supplying stuff. And so I will deal with the publishers, and then I'll deal with a few sales reps. And they'll just upload, like I'll look in my folder sometimes and there's just 20 articles that need to be designed. And it's like, okay.
Alrighty.
I will do those tonight.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It's great. So my job for their magazine is not super complicated. It involves a lot of back and forth, but it's pretty straightforward. It's just take these basic items and combine them well. Make them legible for the most people. So we're talking like you have to have considerations about how people's psychology of like running through a page and a design kind of works and colors that go together and
it's composition.
Shapes. Yeah, all the art stuff. Yeah. All the big words from college. You have to kind of have those in the back of your mind and run through them and say, okay, this meets most of that. Go. And they'll shoot emails back and forth and say, this needs to change, this needs to change, swap these, da-da-da-da-da. And over the course of 4 weeks, theirs is monthly. So every 4 weeks we produce a big magazine.
That's insane.
It's a lot.
Do you recycle it? Do you recycle ads? Like if someone's like, hey, we want to continue running in the magazine?
Some.
So do you get to do that very often? Or is that just kind of like
I would
95% of it is brand new every month?
Most of it's new every single month.
Good Lord.
You know, all the ads sort of have a look that you're going for. So you know their colors, you know their fonts, you know their general aesthetic for photography and stuff. So you might have an idea of what they want, but you have to produce it every time. And so it keeps me quite busy. But how many people get to be really busy with stuff they love? You know?
Yeah, not a lot.
So I will sit in my chair until 2 and 3 in the morning and have a new PDF for them for when they wake up. But I love it. I think a lot of things people love are hard, and that's good.
Yeah.
You just do it anyway. But going forward with my own magazine, I'm planning to keep going with those other magazines as a designer. But with this magazine, I love the machinery of getting to have meetings with people to talk about advertising and brainstorming with writers about what they want to do, and talking to the photographer about ideas that might look good for someone who's trained more in that field than I am. Talking to the nonprofit of the issue and like hearing what they care about. And I love all the complexity of that. It's a really big variety. So my day now isn't just Word documents and photos. It might be really lining up a slew of people and like making sure all the parts fit together.
Right.
So I've been a big ball of chaos lately, but I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've gotten to do this. Me and my wife ran the Pitt County Women's Journal before the pandemic, and she was a graphic designer with me. I had trained her. She was on my team, and she worked with me in that capacity for 3 years and did a really great job. But during the pandemic, she got another job, and I really wanted to bring the magazine back. And so this is the first time I'm doing this by myself, and that's been a really different thing. I think before I got to kind of talk to her and say, here's the ideas I have, here's the people I've reached out to, here's the parts that are open and need to be handled. And now it's like, oh, here's all the stuff. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So how's the timeline different? Like you're able to, now that you're doing everything, instead of just designing a magazine in a month, you're curating the entire thing.
It's a lot different.
Like how's the timeline?
Well, the new magazine is going to be bi-monthly. Our first issue is November, December. And so the next one will be January, February. And so I do have 2 months. I thought about coming back monthly, and I thought that would kill me.
Well, how long did it take you to get this first one together?
2 months.
Okay.
At least. The first one was very light, I hope. The first one was harder than what it should be every month, because the first one involved getting people to say yes to an idea for the first time. And then later I'll have something to hand them, and they will know what the product is. They don't have to imagine the idea or the concept of what ENC Community Magazine will be. They'll just get to hold it and say whether or not they want to be in. Now, the last 2 or 3 months, I think I decided actually 3 months ago to hit play, to do this again. And so all these meetings and stuff were me saying, please believe in me. Please come on board.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It filled out.
Yeah.
We've got 64 pages and it's full. Thank goodness. But a lot of people are trusting me in a different way right now than they'll have to later.
Yeah. Later they'll have a tangible product. Yeah. So for this first issue, what was your goal in the curation? Like, what am I trying to ask here? What was the thread that was running through all the people that you had in this one? Is it just they're all small businesses, or
it's a smorgasbord? It is. The first issue is exactly what I was hoping to be, but it doesn't have. It's not topical. It's not.
There's not a theme.
Thematic.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's not thematic. It has. It's going to be the November, December. So if there is a theme, there's a few articles that are how to kind of keep yourself together for the holidays, how to think about gift giving when you're broke, kind of thing. Or we have an article about an article that I'm really excited about is this is going after we get a print, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get it as close as we can.
Cool, it's perfect.
Yeah, we'll see.
Either way, one of the articles I'm really excited about there was our friend Gabrielle is writing one about middle-aged women with tattoos and how uncomfortable and how judged you can feel as a middle-aged woman with a tattoo, and how you should do it anyway. How if you want to be yourself and not shrink down for people's opinions, do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it was just really empowering. But we've got some good business. We've got some good empathy based, like care for other people around you kind of things. The nonprofit is Awaken Coffee, which they are a coffee house and coffee brand that employs differently, what's the right terminology? Differently abled individuals. And so that people can come work for them, even if their brain works differently than most people's. And so
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Like that. And the spot's really interesting too. I'm very curious to see how the traffic changes around that little intersection. Yeah.
It's going to be at the ENC, Hartford ENC building.
It looks like it was designed in the 70s. Like it was built in the 70s, you know? It's got that cool breezeway courtyard thing going on. It's right there at 14th and Evans, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I saw they're having a ribbon cutting in the next couple of days. On the 2nd, I'm going to go not the Hartford ENC is not the coffee house, but I'm going to go over there and show support. But they
did they remodel that whole building?
I'm not quite sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go over there and see it for the first time. I haven't been in person.
Too.
Cool.
Yeah. I want to see.
But the actual coffee business is getting a physical location now in there, and I can't wait. I think everyone should go get coffee and support.
Yeah. So what made you choose Blue Ox for the cover?
Dude, Blue Ox is one of my favorite businesses. Harry Frank is the owner, and he does...
What is Blue Ox for people who don't know?
It's called Blue Ox Games. If I were putting it into a few words, it's comic books and board games and all things geek.
Yeah, it's like a fan warehouse. That sounded like you sell industrial fans. Like a Fanatic warehouse. How about that?
They do such a good job. They have events in their back room, like game nights, and they are just really inclusive people. They want people there. You know, anyone who feels any sort of way, they just want you there because people are cool. And they treat people that way. When you walk in the doors, they want you to feel like your family. So the way that I chose Blue Ox was that when I decided to come back, I wanted the first cover to scream community. I wanted it to be somebody who just tries their best to include people. And Harry and his group are always focused on the community, on giving, on figuring out how what they're doing can help the people around them. And so I actually didn't approach Harry asking for advertising. I didn't say, here's our new media kit. Would you like to advertise? I said, Harry, you're going to be on the damn cover. I said,
it's not a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually didn't sign a contract with him until like last week or something. I was just like, oh, we should probably talk about that at least.
Yeah. We should talk the not fun stuff.
But I wanted him on the cover. His brand is what he personally is about. It just is. I love the I'm not somebody who ever did Dungeons and Dragons and those figurines and painting and the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I love that everyone has a place there.
Yeah.
I love that you can come be a Comic-Con person or a game board person or a comic book person or not. Maybe you're just there for your kids. Maybe you just whatever. And you can have a place there.
Yeah. I'd met him once before we did that shoot, and I didn't really talk to him a whole lot. Like, you know, it was kind of an in and out meeting thing. And after we did that shoot, or during the shoot, he just seems like a really lovable kind of goofy guy. Yeah. Seems really laid back.
The first time I met him was for an ad sales meeting for the Pitt County Women's Journal. I came in there and he took time to sit down with me, and I almost canceled myself out of that situation. I was like, listen, I know you're a game store and a comic book store. I've got a women's journal.
Yeah.
And I was almost like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to be part of this? And what he said to me was that, yes, there's a lot of women in the gaming community who don't get representation. And at that time, because it was a women's magazine, he was like, we want to be there too. We want to let those people know that there's a place they can just come. So, and instantly I was like, oh, this is a guy who just wants to include people. So I just told him. I bullied him into the first cover.
Yeah.
And then when we got on the cover shoot, I got to use the can of smoke, and I got to be the smoke guy.
It was fun. That was fun. It was very fun. Even though my lights decided not to work properly out of nowhere. Anyway, so I am curious. I may have asked you about this, but you're doing like a print magazine, a hard cover, like not hardcover, but a hard copy like magazine,
right? Yeah.
In a time where, I mean, there's still magazines. Obviously, you see them all over the place. But what makes you want to do that over like I don't know, like a paid kind of electronic version of it?
Right. I think that's a very reasonable question. People don't often outright say it, but a lot of people are of the perception that everything's going digital and that print does not have a place for much longer, unless you're a novelist, unless you have something in that way.
I agree with that to an extent.
I think the world's changing. I think that there's a lot of print that doesn't have as much room.
I think magazines still fall into what's going to continue being printed.
I hope so. That's what I think too.
Yeah. I mean, for real. Like, I mean, I don't think that it's going to a place where it doesn't have a spot anymore. Mm-hmm. I think it's like you're always going to need billboards. You know, no,
until they're holograms.
They're doing there's a whole lot of I forgot that digital billboards are a thing. For a second there. Damn. All right, convince me. I'm on the other side now. You're doomed.
I think I think when you're going maybe you're out for your Saturday shopping trip with your friends. Say you go pick out new shirts every weekend.
Right.
You walk into this business and they've got they've advertised, and you're picking up this thing. All of a sudden you're back home and you're sitting there watching TV and you're flipping through it. I think that people innately just like the feeling,
just like to have
the thing that you flip through.
Yeah.
And it's so simple. Me personally, I am in front of a computer or a phone or an iPad or technology all the time. Mm-hmm. It is, like many people, it's my job. And so I am screened out. And so I only buy paperback books. I write notes by hand. Everything, like so much of what I do is tactile. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are the same way. If you're on your phone reading a book, you get bored with the story for a second, you flip over to Facebook, and all of a sudden it's 3 hours later.
Yeah.
And so I think there's always this place, especially when you're supporting local, when you've got that local mentality, it feels small town, if that's a way to.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
When you see people that you know, it's like your neighbor. It's like your dentist.
Yeah.
It might be your whatever. All of a sudden you're tied into this thing. And so when I'm thinking about community, I'm not thinking about the futuristic thing that you can do online, because you can do that already. I could have done that for a lot cheaper. But this is something low tech. Your aunt's going to pick it up and call you and say, I saw your work on the cover. And you're just going to have people who picked it up while they were out, brought it home. Their spouses saw it. Their kids saw it. You get to tell those people, you're like, oh, I saw you in that section. I saw your ad in that thing. Mm-hmm. And even though it's low tech, even though the future might be digital in many respects, it's built into us to like have a memento, like a thing that you just get sentimental about, especially when you're supporting your local community, your friends and family who are part of it. Mm-hmm. So I never thought about doing digital, and I'm always willing to grow and change. I might be digital one day, but I think I've got a few years at least where this is the direction I'm going.
I think there's a way to do it where you get a nice balance. Like while you were going over all that, I had a question pop into my mind, and maybe not specifically for this magazine, but in general, do magazines do you make your money selling ads for the most part, or is it mostly actual like sales, like copies that are bought? Is that maybe sales is where you're getting your print money back?
No, it will be. It depends what magazine you are. There's definitely subscription-based models where the subscribers pay for it. Ours is an advertiser-based model, and so the advertisers pay for the printing, and then the articles are free to run, so the ads pay for it. And so I just need to get enough paid ads to pay for all the parts. And yeah.
So that brings me to this, what I think would be a cool balance. You can just take this or not. Maybe I'm a dum-dum. Probably am. But I was thinking, what if you did like a limited amount of prints, and because you're ad-based, do a limited amount of prints, and then maybe also have the same ads on like an online version, or exclusive ad spots on the online version since it's a little different.
Yep.
And just have the online version be like free, quote unquote, but the ads are what you're making the money off of anyway. So I think that, I don't know, seems like a good balance.
There will be, there will be a sort of mirrored version of the magazine.
Okay.
On the website, which will be.
So I was right.
ENCcommunity.com. You are right. ENCcommunity.com is not live right now, but it will be live next week.
Oh, so it's live right now.
What's that?
It's live right now.
Oh, no.
As people are listening.
Oh, it's live right now.
It's live right now.
www.enccommunity.com.
Did that make you panic? Were you like, wait, what? Is it up? It wasn't supposed to be.
Yes.
You went?
So it will be, when this comes out, it's live right now. It will have all the articles, all the articles will be up there, and then on social media, Instagram and Facebook is where the ads will get mirrored. And so there'll be links to all the articles throughout social media, but then the ads themselves go up on social media, and so that becomes taggable for businesses, for people, and all of a sudden, if you're not local and don't see the print magazine, you see your friend get tagged in it, and so there's going to be a lot of online elements to this.
So, this has been happening recently.
What?
I don't know. Like I get to a point in a podcast where I want to ask a question, and I maybe had one, but then it goes away. Yeah, it usually happens when a guest has like, not like this is great. I love when this happens because I just have to sit here and listen. It's wonderful. But the problem with that is I'll get so into what you're saying that I'm like, oh shit, I forgot a question. So see, I got nothing.
There are going to be 200 locations and 4,000 copies floating around Greenville. It's probably going to do some expanding over the first few issues into Washington and Farmville and go out a little bit further than that. And then online will be where a lot of people probably see it. We'll probably see the ads that their friends are in, or we've got different sections that are celebrations, things that are happening for people in the community, and it doesn't have to be business related. We've got ENC VIPs, which is also not just for CEOs and whatever. It's for just people in the community. And so that's a bio section that's just little blurbs about these people. What cool stuff are they doing? And so we're having a lot of that engagement that, I do want to focus on small business and have this be almost like a directory of trustworthy businesses. But also there's just these little stages for the nonprofit, for the VIPs, which is just cool people around town, and for the celebrations, which is like, my business has been open for 10 years. I've had a baby. I retired. I graduated.
Yeah.
I mean, those cool things that you don't normally get to share unless you call the newspaper and pay for that slot for your son who graduated. You probably aren't going to have that somewhere.
Yeah.
And so hopefully when people are flipping through those parts, they're like, holy cow, you're in here.
Yeah. Thanks for saving me there. I'm wondering, do you have any like plans for expansion on this?
I do. When I decided to originally start the Pitt County Women's Journal, I wanted to bring it out as 100 pages. and quickly reality hit. And it was, so that magazine was at 32 pages the whole time.
Whoa. Bit of a cut.
A lot different than what I wanted. But you've got to start somewhere. And I wasn't disappointed. I was just like, reality. I'm the dreamer.
Didn't mean to kick you while you were down.
Yeah. I'm the dreamer. I want big things, and I just want to try stuff and risk things. And I've got a lot of people I keep around me on purpose who are very grounded and are like, here's the 20 steps involved in that. Here's the 100 things you need to do for that. And so it became a 32-page magazine, and we ran it really well. Instead of it being 100 pages of garbage, we had 32 quality pages where people connected really well. When I brought this back as ENC Community, I still have it kind of in my soul somewhere that I want it to be larger. Right now it's 64 pages coming back, which is double what we were ever able to do before. And it's maintained quality. It's headed in a good direction. I anticipate maybe in a year from now, maybe as a dreaming number, a year from now, I'd like to see it 100 pages, and I'd like to see it representing more of Eastern North Carolina. So Washington businesses, Farmville businesses, and like outward.
Yeah.
And so maybe in a couple of years, it's not as limited. Yeah. Maybe there's the Greenville main section, and then there's sections of the magazine that are other places.
Yeah. I was, while you were saying that, I was wondering, are you going to do like an Eastern North Carolina magazine, a Western North Carolina magazine? That would be cool. It's on brand.
Well, part of it for me is maintaining those relationships that can back up wanting to advertise, wanting to write stories. So when people pick up this magazine, they're going to find writers who they know from the community. They're going to find businesses that they know. And so if I step too far away from it, all of a sudden it's people on the other side of the state, that I don't have a connection with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think the connection is most of it for me. I think if I didn't plan it to be useful for the community that I'm in, I wouldn't do it. Because, I'm busy. I don't have to do this. I'm already kind of busy. Yeah. I'm doing it out of love and out of want for Greenville, Pitt County, and Eastern North Carolina to just have an extra stage. I'm not the only person doing stuff out here, but I do want it to be a place for people to get recognition when they don't normally, for people who are dreaming, for people who want to be writers and try new stuff, to just have a place for that.
So what kind of stuff are you into other than that? Like other than work?
So my schedule would say that I'm only into work and kids. The stuff that I enjoy, my two kids are Elijah, who's 8, and Malcolm, who's 5. A lot of my non-work time is doing stupid stuff with them, like playing ridiculous things, watching. I'm really into horror movies. That's another thing. And so they're too young for that, but I've started getting them into like the appropriate kid scary stuff, like I would call creepy. And so we're getting more into like Halloween's been a good time for them. We've done some creepy shows and movies and stuff for them. So I love photography. I used to be a runner. I probably will again. I love it. I'm not very good at it. But sometimes you do love things you're not very good at.
Never have, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. That's a common, I've said this a few times on the podcast too. I literally will not do anything I'm not good at. I don't know. It's probably a fear of failure thing that's deeply rooted in my psychology. But
I think it's probably a really good thing to get in the practice of doing stuff you're not great at.
We'll see.
You should try something. If you're really bad at drawing, draw some stuff. Yeah. And it's not about getting better. It's about becoming more and not limiting yourself with oh, I'm not great at that, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I'm not good at.
Yeah, I'm sure there's quite a few things I'm not good at. I either get super obsessed with it and make myself get decent at it so I can be like, yeah, I can do this too. Or I'm just like, nah, I'm good. This is too like guitar, for instance. Like I know how to play guitar. I picked it up relatively quickly, but then I got to a point where it got a little too hard, and I was like, nah, I'm good. I don't need to learn how to play lead stuff. I can just play chords and move my capo, so I don't have to play bar chords.
I heard somebody say at one time, what a big difference it makes in your life when you title yourself differently. So if you are wanting to become a runner, and rather than giving the disclaimer every time that you used to run like I just did, you'd say, I'm a runner.
Yeah.
And then you'll just do it.
I did that with photography.
Yeah.
Working full-time jobs. I got into the habit of, instead of saying, yeah, I'm a bus driver, but I do photography, kind of on the side right now. I'm hoping to make that my thing. I just started with no light at the end of the tunnel that's like showing very well.
Right.
I'm still going, I'm a photographer. And then I just don't tell people that I do the other thing.
I think it's the first big step in the psychology of like positioning yourself toward something you want for yourself.
Yeah.
And until you verbalize it, until you kind of confirm it by making other people hear it, you don't have any accountability towards that thing. The minute you say, I'm a photographer, I'm a runner, I'm this or that, all of a sudden you have to either stop saying that or start fulfilling that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say own it too. Like if you're in a group of friends or something, this came up in my, this situation ran through my mind. There we go. While I was thinking about it. And like, let's say you were with a group of friends and you introduce yourself like that, like I'm a photographer. And then you have an asshole friend. We all do.
Yep.
Who's like, you do this though too. And you're like, yeah. But own it, just like, yeah, but like I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
Lean into it. Know that, like, let the person know, I know that I actually do this full time, but I'm a photographer. You know what I mean? Anyway.
And I think you need to make room for people to change. I think you need to make room for people to do, to step outside of what your expectations for them are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of pushing people. Like, I would tell that person to shut up. Like, shut the fuck up. Let them, I'm a very, very, like, if someone told me I'm a photographer, I'm immediately gonna be like, oh, can I see, like, your work? Even if actually, I'm going to be more curious if someone's like, but you work a full-time, desk job. I'm going to be like, okay, let me see your work.
Yeah, you must love it.
Like, bam, look at that. You are a photographer.
If you're doing that on the side, you must love it.
Yeah. Or like, if it's not that great, I'll be like, oh,
good try.
You're going to get there.
Keep going.
Look, hey, you keep pushing. That's good. That's good. Better than me when I started. That kind of stuff. Be encouraging.
That's why, man, I try to encourage people when they're starting something, even if it's not going well at first, just to kind of push into it and be like,
yeah, here,
way to go.
Yeah.
Keep going, ask questions, try.
Yeah.
Keep trying.
We're going through that, a similar situation right now where we've been working with somebody and we're trying to get them to understand that, like, when you first start out doing this, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be great. I mean, I've been doing this for a year, and there's been 2 moments in this podcast already where I'm like, where like I can't think of what I'm trying to say, or I can't come up with anything, to say. And if you go back and listen to old episodes of this podcast, it's very, very clear that just continuing to do it makes it easier for you. Just period. You get used to it. You get a little bit of brain muscle memory, or just regular muscle memory, depending on what you're trying to do. But encouraging people to keep going, and like I'm a very, very big proponent of that. Or is that right? Did I say that right? I push that.
I understand. I think you said it right.
Yeah, I think I said it right. It didn't sound right. I was annoying for a while with a lot of my friends because they would just mention, like, I kind of maybe want to do this. And I'm like, you should do it. You should totally do that. You should totally take out a loan for $30,000 and do that. Do it. You should do it. And then I'll text them like 10 days later. Hey, did you do it yet?
Yeah.
Did you do that thing? And then I get mad when they don't.
Well, I think
I tell them I'm disappointed in them.
it takes a lot of courage to
That's a joke.
it takes a lot of courage to step out of like dream mode and put plans behind it and to put money and time behind it.
Yeah. The plan part I'm still working on. Money and time, though. Got that. Yeah, that's all tied up in this shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, plan. I'm not real good at that. I'm a big picture guy. I need a business manager really bad.
I think that's why I try to encourage the little guys, the people who are just starting, is because they just stepped out. They just took this thing that's been in them for years that, they didn't know how people were going to react to it.
Yeah.
And they started it anyway.
It's scary as shit. Like, it really is. Even going full time with photography, when I didn't really have a choice. I got to a point where I was just so busy that I couldn't do everything I was trying to do. I couldn't work a full-time job,
right,
do this podcast, and do photography. And I learned that there was a 3-month break in this podcast. I learned that I actually can't do photography and this podcast well at the same time by myself. But when I went full-time with photography, it was even though it was out of necessity, because I was so busy with it, I was still scared because I don't have a safety net anymore. Yeah. I left the job because I was like, look, I'm going to quit or you guys are going to fire me for not being here. Because I was at the point where I was taking like 3 days off a week every other week. Yeah. Because I was like, I got to be somewhere. Sorry. Not going to be there.
I remember when we moved to Greenville was when I had technically had an LLC before that. But when we moved to Greenville was the first time I took my side business, like the side stuff, and made it my job. We moved here, and at one point after Amy had our second son, all of a sudden that business that was just like my side hustle before that I could just do or not do was like supposed to support our family. Yeah. And we were supposed to eat off of that money. And like Amy started working in my company, and all of a sudden this thing that I was just like, maybe that'll work. I'll put a lot of work into it. We'll see. Was supposed to like be what we were living on.
This now has to work.
Oh, yeah. That was she was with me for 3 years and it went really well. But there were moments, especially at the beginning, where I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean my graphic design stuff is what we're going to be having as a real job? Like it went from like, maybe that'll work to like, oh, that's gotta work. Yeah. Or I'll go over to McDonald's and get another job.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's something I couldn't go back to a normal job now. I can't do it. I don't know what I would do. It would not be okay. I would not be okay.
I imagine that's really hard when you've got that entrepreneurial bug and you're doing your own rhythm and your own thing to like fit yourself back into someone else's structure and their plans.
Yeah, that's it's really, really difficult. I mean, it's difficult for me when I'm in a full-time job. Like any full-time job I've had or any job that I've had, it's just I'm not real good with rules and authority. And I mean, it's not like I'm an asshole or anything. I'll do what I'm told, but it's just I'm not going to do it happily. Yeah. I'm going to look like I do. I'm going to put on a face, but I'm not happy inside because I like doing what I want to do. I like getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
It's such a big choice. If you work for yourself, you've got 100 million extra things to do to make it work. Yeah. And if you're working for someone else, you get to separate work and home. Like you can just be done at work at 5.
It's a great trade-off.
And go home and watch TV and not think about work anymore. Like I get that. It's just a whole different choice. You've got two very different lives you got to choose from.
Yeah. I tell people there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's not for me. I can't do it, having the freedom it's not really having the freedom to do whatever you want. It's having the freedom to do what you have to do when you can do it. You know what I mean?
Stepping up to
when you want to do it or
your own stuff.
Yeah. Because you're right. There's so much more that I have to think about doing this now. And there's probably a shit ton of stuff I'm not thinking about that I should, stuff that might bite me in the ass 10 years from now.
Absolutely.
But hey, you remember that contract you didn't make? You probably should have.
But you're enjoying life.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I'm stressed out of my mind pretty much all the time, but I'm happier.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
Yeah. Dude, I think that we're living on a parallel.
It's pretty awesome. I'm trying to encourage my mom. I think this is going to happen without her meaning for it to happen. but she's got an online boutique that she started on Facebook.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's called No Dust Just Sparkle, and the name came from she started it out by selling her like clothes that she wasn't wearing anymore on Facebook. Like either it didn't fit or she just never wore it, and so she just started selling it on Facebook, and she was good at it, and so she started this boutique page.
Fun.
Where she sells now. She's at the point where she is selling new clothes in this boutique. And she'll go out to different like events. Like I just helped her last Saturday at a new apartment complex that was opening, and they were doing like vendors out there.
Nice.
Like in the parking lot. And she'll go and set up something like that. And I'm looking at it, looking at the setup, and I'm like, this could really be a thing. And she's showed me that based on her PayPal account, it could be a thing.
Yeah.
Could very much be a thing. I was shocked.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I'm hoping she can find a way to make that at least more of what she does. Because she seems very happy doing it. And that makes me happy.
It's interesting how some people just stumble into something that's headed the right direction and then put some gas on it.
I think my dad has finally found his thing too. He's been all over the place my whole life. I think this is probably why I am like I am. Like I can't. It might be a nature thing, or it might just be I grew up around him and was like, yeah, I like the way that you get up whenever you want to, you know, because he's what I'd call a serial entrepreneur, but it probably comes from just not wanting to work for anybody.
Yeah,
because it's just not as fun, you know. But my dad has done like the earliest I can remember. He was like a construction worker kind of, or he like owned a framing business. I think that's what it was. Sorry, I was very young, so I don't remember. You know the Checkers on Greenville Boulevard, the only Checkers we have, across from the mall.
Oh, the restaurant.
Yeah.
I was going to like a giant checkerboard.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, so he wired that building.
Cool.
Yeah. So he's an electrician. He's been a mechanic. We owned a racetrack for a year.
Fun.
It's not really. The way that we were able to do that is me and my brother did all of the like grass cutting, weed eating, picking up trash after a race. Yeah. So, I mean, it was cool.
It's a job for everybody.
I would not call it fun. Yeah. But it's a cool experience. But now he started working with a PI years ago when I was in like 8th grade when they first started working together. And he was still doing the mechanic stuff, and he was still while working with this guy as kind of like an assistant PI. I don't really know what his role was, but he helped him do stuff. He eventually, through being while being a mechanic, while running the track and everything, he got his a partial license, not like a full PI license, so you can't open your own business.
Okay.
And he did that for a while, and then he broke away a couple of years ago, and started his own business. And that's all he does now, and he's very good at it, apparently.
Doing the PI stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, so if you need a PI,
cool.
Risk Point Solutions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a mismatch. Like, that's a wide array of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think I don't care what I do. You know, I love doing this, and I love photography, videography. I love creating stuff. But like I've thought about, you know, I've got restaurant ideas. I had one person reach out and say they were tired of hearing about my burger stand idea. So Reba, this is for you. I have a burger stand idea that is, you know, just something real simple. You know, I was like, I kind of want to just have like a little burger stand that's like make the burgers as cheap as I can make, like as cheap for the customer that I can make them and still make a little money. You know what I mean? Like this isn't like make a living thing. This is like every Saturday maybe I go set it up like as an old man.
So here's what you're not doing right.
Oh boy.
Stitch them together. People come get a picture, a burger, and then you interview them.
Right. Yeah, wait times for the burgers are going to be really long. But I like the idea. I like the direction. I'll probably have to have a few employees for that. Yeah. Yeah, a few podcast tables set up. But no, I think I'd be happy doing anything as long as I'm working for myself, you know, and I'm good at what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll be miserable.
If you can enjoy it and make money from it, there might be something there.
Yeah, for sure. Anything you want to leave the people with? Putting you on the spot.
Man, just keep doing cool stuff, guys. I love the people here. I'm excited about so many of the new things that are going on, and just keep being cool.
Yeah, keep being cool. I like that. Keep being cool. All right, guys. Oh, well, hold on. Before I sign off, where can people find you? What do you want to push? You push whatever you plug your pluggables.
All right. The main thing I'm doing right now is ENC Community Magazine. It'll be on stands November 5th. So when this comes out, look for it. It'll be in 200 locations. And I'm just so glad to be a part of things here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for having me on your podcast, Aaron.
You're
What
welcome.
the fuck is wrong with me today? Okay, guys, so make sure you check out the magazine. When this episode comes out, I'm going to try to get this out as like close to the date as possible so that it makes a little more sense. So if things went well, this podcast will be coming out about 5-6 days after the magazine hits stands, so go find it. Make sure you're following Small Stuff Podcast on Instagram. And like I said earlier in the beginning of the podcast, make sure that you're following Tales from the Shadows, Small Stuff Media, and About That with OB on Instagram also. And be on the lookout for all the things that we're doing. I don't know if they're sold out yet. Maybe not. But the stickers and, probably not because we just put them on the website November 5th. Stickers and keychains are on the website right now if you want to go buy them. They're just a little something for people who've been listening to the podcast for a while and for whoever else wants one. Very limited quantity, 20 to 30 each. I haven't counted them since we got them, so just know they're limited. So go get one if you want one. We'll see you later.